Hey guys, it's Diana. Welcome back to another episode of Let's Draw. Today we're going to be continuing our video of how to draw GoGo Tomago. The last video was about line art and gesture, and these are some of the prior gestures and drawings we focused on in the last video. But this video will be about coloring, rendering, and polishing up the drawing. Now it's really important to start out with really basic colors. You want to kind of get the entire color scheme of the character down, but not complicate it too much. So at most I would pick, if her armor is yellow, just yellow, or yellow and then what that color would be in shadow, which would be, a warmer yellow in the light and then a greener yellow in the shadows because there'd be a blue tone. But you can focus on that later, that's not important right now. So it's just important to pick the basic colors for your character. So that would be yellow for her armor, a relative skin tone that you want to use for her, black for her hair and the rest of her outfit, and then pinks and purples for certain highlights. It's best to simplify your color use from the beginning. You don't want to start out with too many colors because things will get muddy. Now as I'm going about putting down the colors, I'm not worrying too much about sticking within the lines. I think if you try to strictly just paint within the lines, your drawings can come out really stiff and the coloring can seem really, again, strict or stiff according to the lines. So at first I don't worry about sticking within the lines, I just color away and get the basic colors down. Once I have the basic colors down, I'll start in cleaning up the edges and kind of taking away color where I don't want it or where it goes way over the line, that kind of thing. As you can see here, again, I'm just cleaning up. It's mostly not thinking at this point, just cleaning up so I don't have to think too hard. It's just about cleanup and making sure that everything's where I want it to be so I can proceed with the color from here. There's of course different approaches to color for everybody. Some people prefer to use the magic wand tool to select the area that they want to color and then color in whatever they're coloring, like for example the disc that I'm doing right now. But sometimes I do that, sometimes I don't. It depends, I guess, on how complex the space is that I'm trying to color or the line art. Everyone has different ways of working. I suggest you try several different ways and find out which one's best for you. For me, it's a bit more about being painterly. In the end, I'll actually end up painting over a lot of my lines, so sticking within the lines isn't necessarily something I always want to do. I'll try to keep it clean from the beginning, but in the end, I'll end up going over those lines and painting over them, so it's not strictly necessary for me to have the cleanest, nicest color within the line work stuff. Because in the end, those lines aren't always relevant and will disappear and go in and out depending on my choices. Now that I have the basic colors down, I'm going to focus on doing highlights and kind of getting the idea of where the light source is coming from. For this drawing, I'm just choosing for the light source to come from the right, which would be GoGo Tomago's left. And I'm just keeping it as a relatively soft, warm light. So you can see that I'm putting highlights on her cheeks that are a much warmer tone and then reddening up her cheeks a little bit where that contrast starts to happen and make her look very lively and just makes your character look really alive when there's very red tones in the cheeks, nose, knuckles, that sort of thing. For this drawing, the knuckles aren't so relevant because they're covered up with gloves, but If you'll notice other people's drawings, putting it on the shoulders, nose, knuckles is a way to make your character seem very fleshy and alive. Again, since I decided that the light source is going to be a warm light, it's important to apply that to everything. So I can't suddenly make her purple highlights have blue highlights, because if they're being affected by a warm light, they're going to have reddish pink highlights. So it's fine to make artistic choices and, you know, do your own thing, but also think about color scheme and the color of your light source. Now I'm just doing the rest of her body. I'm keeping the gray pretty, kind of a warmer tone gray where the highlights are coming in, but still just relatively simple and gray because I don't want too much yellow or attention being drawn to there. There's already a lot of yellow in her armor, and then the fact that the highlights, because of the warm light, are also going to be yellow, make it already a very yellow piece. So I just don't want that to get too out of hand, and then also make the gray of her black armor tights also yellow. It would be a bit much, I think. So yeah, I'm just putting down some very simple highlights on the rest of her outfit. Kind of figuring out, okay, how would the light affect this area? Would it wrap around the chest plate? If you think about her chest plate coming out, because obviously she has a chest and she's a girl, how would the light wrap around that? It wouldn't just fall flat, it would follow the shape. As with the shadows, even though I'm working in the highlight layer right now, I'm also putting in some shadows just for contrast. That way they make the highlights pop out even more. Again, just a reminder, I'm only using the very basic, normal Photoshop round brush. And I mean, some of the settings are a little different. Like now I have it softer and the flow is lower, and I took down the hardness of the brush, but it is still just that basic round brush in Photoshop. Not doing anything fancy, there's no extra tricks, it's just the round brush. Now that I have some of the basic highlights I want, I'm going to come in with the brighter, harsher highlights that I want to affect my character. And you can see that I took a harder brush and kind of went in with a bright yellow around her chest plate and her shoulder pads. And that's to make it pop out a little bit more, because the jarring factor of the black line versus the yellow armor will make that stand out even more. So I will change the color of the line art layer, but for now it's starting to get the look I want of, okay, where's your eye being drawn to and how does the light source work? As we continue, it's just more filling in, more highlights, thinking about what kind of material her discs for her armor are and whether I want the highlights on them to be really harsh or very soft. Obviously it's hard armor, so I would rather a very hard edge, as you can see. And now I'm going to start coloring in the line art to make the character look a bit more cohesive. You can keep just a black liner, but I always think it looks better when it's colored, and especially if it's a complementary color to what you're using. I want this all to look pretty cohesive, so I'm just going to use a brown, golden, burnt umber kind of color to make it all come together, and then I'll color it darker if I need the liner to be darker in a certain spot. Also, you'll notice that some of the lines on her outfit are red. If you look at the official art, that's how her outfit is. So that's what I'm doing right now, painting those lines of the line art to mimic what her outfit looks like with that subtle red glow that it has. And again, it's important to zoom in and out every once in a while to kind of see how it's all looking from far away and from up close. You don't always want to just render away really close and move from one corner to the other and forget to zoom out, because then you'll zoom out and realize that everything is the same color, the same tone, it's really grayed out. And because you didn't zoom out, you couldn't look away from that corner you were working on. And you might have missed it, and then it costs you time and energy, and it's always better to zoom in and out. The drawing equivalent, if you're not on a computer, would just be to step away from your drawing and then step back to it and pull away every once in a while and kind of look away from your drawing to give your eyes a rest, and then look back at it and see what's changed or what you find different. So from now on, we're just going to work on polishing, cleaning up line work, making sure it's the color that we wanted, that sort of thing. You can see that I'm changing the color of some of the liner, especially the liner that's facing the source of light. So the reason I'm changing the color of the liner that's facing the light is because it wouldn't make sense for something that's consumed by bright yellow light to be black. If the liner is facing a bright light source, then the color of the liner, I feel, should change too. It doesn't make sense to just keep it black. So I'm just doing a bright color from her skin tone to brighten that up to make it seem like, she's being affected by a bright light. And where some of the armor and the hands and gloves fall into shadow, then I'll darken that liner to make it seem like it's further away from the light. Again, applying that same philosophy about the brightness of the liner to the rest of the liner, and making sure that the bubble gum doesn't have a harsh black line art to it, because it doesn't make sense for something that's a gum bubble and soft and bubbly to have a very harsh black line. So there I'll put, some bright tones, some highlights, and also a bright, not quite white, but relatively lighter highlight to make it seem like it's very rounded. I'm also bringing some of that pink from the bubblegum to her cheeks to liven them up a little bit more. From here on out, it's just small details and polishes that I want to do. You can make your own choices from here. It's just about how bright do I want certain places to be, purely based on aesthetic. Someone could be doing the same drawing but have different aesthetic, and they would handle these small details a bit differently, according to what appealed to them. So you'll notice the new layer, layer 2, doesn't have a name yet, and it's just put on soft light. And that's so I can put an overall glow over the drawing and kind of really show what this warm light is bathing the character. It also helps you unify your piece a little bit, because it draws together all of the lines and colors to show that they all really are affected by a bright yellow light. More details from here, putting in some loose strands of hair, cleaning up the eyes, making some highlights on the lips and places that I feel I might have missed before. It's also really important to spend as much time as possible on the area that you want people to focus on. Like, yes, obviously people are going to look at her entire body and all of that, but I mostly want people to focus on her face. So that's where the majority of my time will go in terms of rendering, putting in highlights, etc. So yeah, that's it. And there you have it, the final finished drawing of GoGo Tomago in all of its glory. I also put in some highlights on the boots because I really like that very Tron, bright, electric feel that her armor has, and that aesthetic really appeals to me. So I made sure to put that in there before I finished up. Thank you so much for watching and keeping along with the videos. If you like this video, please like, comment, and share, or subscribe. If you have any suggestions on what I should make my next video of, please leave a comment down below. I would super appreciate it. Okay, see you guys later. Bye.